Hey everybody, it's your favorite Basterd, and today we're going to be discussing knives. So the main idea I hope to get across with this video is you should not and really don't need to be spending a lot of money on these expensive knife sets you see online. Especially if you're new to cooking, not so serious about cooking, or, just kind of scraping by and you need some new knives. So what I recommend for just about anyone is you only need 3 particular knives in your kitchen. That is a large chef's knife, a smaller paring or utility knife, and a bread knife. This isn't needed so often, but when you have it, you're happy that you do. And you've also seen from my videos, I have one of these guys. So, big knife, smaller medium knife, bread knife. You can get by and do a lot with just those 3. So, this particular knife is a Santoku knife. This is a Japanese style kitchen knife. It's gotten very popular in the West. The last couple of years, you see these made by a lot of Western manufacturers, included in a lot of knife sets. This excels at cutting up fruits and vegetables. These little slots on the side, they allow air to kind of get in and keep things from getting stuck. Like if you're cutting up tomato, something wet that can get, kind of stuck to the blade, that kind of helps it just slide off a little. Now, you're probably thinking, hey, that rotten bastard said I only need 3 knives. Why does he have 4? Helps to have an extra knife. That's one of the reasons why those knife sets are so popular. But specifically, the chef's knife can do just about anything you need doing in your kitchen. The Santoku knife can do it, maybe not as well. Mostly it excels at chopping up fruit, vegetables, and potatoes. So how I operate is cutting up the meat at the start of preparation. I'll use the chef's knife. When I'm done with that, I put it in the sink, clean the cutting board, and then I switch to using the Santoku knife. That way I don't have to wash this knife. I'm a lazy bastard, everyone. So it seems counterintuitive, but I bought all these knives individually from Amazon, and they were cheaper than buying an equivalent set. This chef's knife, which again is going to do about 90% of the work in your kitchen, was only $18. This costs even less. This costs even less than that. This was the cheapest at about $10 or $11. So all in all, you're getting a quality set of knives that are going to do everything you need to do in the kitchen for less than $60. I'm also going to show you some other knives that I think may suit you if you're on an even tighter budget than I am. So before we move on, if you decide that you want to buy your knives piecemeal like I did, but you want a place to store them, you can safely store them in a drawer. What I recommend is you use a drawer that doesn't have much in it, so it's not crowded and you're not, fumbling around in it and you're slicing your hand on these blades and they're not banging up against other stuff, damaging the blade. Alternatively, you can buy an empty knife block. They're relatively cheap on Amazon and I'm sure from other retailers. In addition to that, you can buy a magnet strip. It's just a little magnet bar. You can attach it to your wall or cabinet, come up, slap these guys right on it, they stick to it. The only downside with that, and something to keep in mind, is that magnet is usually made from pretty tough material. As you're slapping the knives against it, well, that could potentially damage your blade. So just bear that in mind. Okay, moving on from that. Well, let's say you already have a decent set or block of knives, nothing special, they get the job done, but once in a while you need something a little better, something a little sharper, a little more substantial, or maybe a little tougher, but again, you're on a tight budget. Well, I could suggest one of these. These are Kiwi brand knives from Thailand. I got these 2 as a set for, I believe it was $10 or $11 on Amazon. And they are incredibly sharp. And if you're looking for something just a little tougher, well, here's a Chinese cleaver for you. This, I believe, was $7 or $8 when I got it on Amazon. It is stupid thick and very heavy. I would only recommend this to someone who is somewhat confident in their knife skills or has a decent arm, because again, heavy could be awkward for you. Something like this is not really sharp, but what I use it for is essentially crushing chicken bones. This will break down a chicken like it's nobody's business, and that's pretty much what I use it for. So with these two knives, specifically, this is a koritsuke and this is a nakari. This is sort of a traditional chef's knife. This is, while it looks like a rather intimidating cleaver, this is primarily used for cutting up vegetables or fruit. It can still be used on meat, but the blade geometry is not ideal for that. This is what you would use for meat, but up to you. One quick thing I wanted to mention about these particular knives is they are stupid sharp, but they're kind of too wide to fit in most knife blocks. So they end up going into a drawer, and then you got this really sharp, crazy object just kind of rolling around in your drawer. That can be dangerous for your fingertips. So what I do is drop a few dollars and get a blade guard. Problem solved. So one final category I wanted to cover, and these knives can be expensive if you try to buy them as a set, but as a single knife or as a pair, well, they can usually be rather affordable, and that is ceramic knives. These are a set of Sharper Image ceramic knives I got as a gift many, many years ago. They have survived really well, so I think that's a testament to quality of a ceramic knife. Now, ceramic is not metal, and the advantage of ceramic is it holds its edge, so you really don't need to sharpen it all that often. It holds its edge better than most metals do, with the caveat being that it can chip rather easily. So you do not want to be using anything hard, anything like bone, still frozen meat, or meat that is still being thawed. You want to use it on softer stuff to preserve the blade. But these I've had for years. What I tend to do is if I'm doing some traveling, but I want to bring some knives with me because I might be cooking, I throw these in my bag. They are inexpensive enough that if they happen to break or I lose them, it's not the end of the world, but still sharp enough and reliable enough that, you know, I can rely on them when I bring them with me. I wanted to endorse a particular set I've had for a while. It's very cheap, but it's very good, reliable for what you pay for it. And that is Chef Essential. You can get these sets pretty cheap on Amazon. I've seen them consistently be under $30 as long as you don't want an actual block to, you know, sort them all in. You can just chuck them in the drawer. They come with blade guards. I've had these for many years. I've only recently retired them because I got those Mercer knives and I noticed I wasn't reaching for these anymore. Handles are this really nice, very grippy rubber, very easy to clean. This is just plastic. Don't worry about that. When I first got these, I thought, wow, plastic, that's probably going to be a piece of crap. But again, had these for years, as you can see, holding up just fine. The blades are stamped. They're nothing special. As long as you sharpen them once in a while, they should be fine. There will be a link for this in the description below. Okay, you bastard. You convinced me to buy a knife. Now, how do I use it? First thing I want to cover for that is how to hold a knife. I catch some people holding knives very awkwardly, like this, holding it away from them, like the edge is some big scary thing that's going to, you know, reach back and try to bite them. Don't do that. This is not how you control a knife. You want to kind of choke up on the blade, get your fingers or your knuckles as close to it as possible, and you'll see how I hold it in some of my videos. Is you want your thumb and your index finger pinching the handle at the very top like this. Now, what you can also do for knives that don't have really fancy ergonomic handles, something a little more old school or traditional like this, is you put your middle finger at the very top, contacting the blade, thumb there, index finger there. So now, this is how you keep control of the blade, and so you don't have to worry about it getting away from you, getting loose, and chopping fingers off. So let's just do a quick demonstration. So again, thumb index finger. It's kind of obvious because these ergonomic blades will have little grippy pads there. But again, don't be afraid to just grip it on the blade. As long as you're pinching it, it shouldn't get away from you. If you've got wet hands, just towel them off. All right, so let's just do a quick demonstration. So again, thumb, index finger. And people will criticize me because I'll hold objects like this while I'm cutting, and that freaks them out because my fingertip is right there. I've been doing this a while, and I've nicked and cut my fingertips enough to kind of have a sixth sense of where they are. Regardless, if you're not so confident and just learning, don't expose the fingertips, instead use your knuckles. So your knuckles guide the blade, so to speak. Another thing, some people will raise the blade an obnoxious amount. Keep the blade as close to the cutting board as possible, because when you do that, notice the blade cannot cut my fingertips because it cannot rise above them. Use a knife you're comfortable with. If it's a brand new knife, go slow. But if you're just starting out, starting to become familiar with, cooking more, using knives more often, go slow. Just take your time with things. Don't feel pressured to move quickly and try to look like a pro chef. You will eventually get to the speed where you can just go. But again, don't rush yourself. So you've had a knife for a while, and it's starting to feel a little dull. Well, from time to time, you might need to sharpen your knives. And when that time comes, I strongly recommend you just use a honing rod. Pull-through sharpeners exist. They can tear up your blade and do long-term damage. I strongly recommend you avoid those. Honing rods are cheap, available everywhere. They've worked for hundreds of years. They will work for you, as long as you know how to use them. If you're just learning how to use a honing rod for the first time, there's plenty of instructional videos out there better than my own. And sometimes the manufacturers will have their own videos detailing how specifically you should be doing it for their knives. So go ahead and look those up. So, how I do it, and generally I think the most foolproof way of doing it, take the pointy end of your honing rod, as you'll see most honing rods have these little pointy ends here. Put it into your cutting board or your counter, whatever surface you may have. Take your blade, edge down, and just pull it through. You want to be holding it about at 20-degree angle or so, and applying a little bit of pressure just so it's making good contact. Your knife manufacturer may actually recommend a specific or particular angle to be holding it at, but most of the time they don't. So about 20 degrees is the sweet spot. And again, just give it a few pulls. And generally that's all you need. So, Addendum. After recording my footage and I was doing research for links and screenshots as examples, I discovered that the internet has a lot of rather cheap and affordable ceramic knife sets that are, most importantly, well reviewed. So I'm now going to say, if you're a new chef, an aspiring chef, someone who just needs a simple set of knives on a budget and you don't really know what you like or what you're looking for, I'm going to point you to some ceramic sets that I'll be linking. The advantage for a newbie when it comes to ceramic is you don't have to worry about rust or corrosion, and you won't have to sharpen it as frequently. It's going to hold an edge. Just keep in mind, as I discussed earlier, ceramic is a little more brittle than steel. You could possibly damage the blade if you try to saw through some bones or deal with frozen meat. So just keep that in mind. So hopefully with all that, you have a pretty decent idea now of what to look for when you're looking for knives, especially when you're on a budget. Of course, I don't have the time to cover every single thing, but if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. I'll do my best to respond to them. And as always, thanks for watching.